Hello and welcome. My name is Aaron Lockwood, and during this short series I'm going to introduce you to 3D Studio Max. This is part one of a small series that I'm going to make that will introduce the user to modelling within the 3ds Max environment. I'm currently using 3D Studio Max version 2009, as you can see up here. But what I'm going to show you in this tutorial will work through version 7 to the latest, which is 2010. However, it won't currently work. It will work, with earlier versions, but it'll be slightly different. And anyway, so throughout this tutorial, we're going to introduce you to the Edit Poly modifier and use it to construct a basic table. So let's get started. First, with standard perimeter selected, we want to create a box. Let's do this now. So click the box icon and let's create a box. Let's see. I'm not too happy with the size. Let's do it again. That's fine, and that's fine. I prefer to round these off to whole numbers instead of leaving it at these points, but it completely depends on what you're doing at the time. Okay, now you want to open up the material editor. Let's press M on the keyboard to do this, and then drag any of the materials onto the plane, onto the box. Now change your box with your box selected from whatever default color it's assigned to black. Now if you, in the perspective window only, right click and choose view, choose edge faces here. Now you can see your box clearly in all windows. Okay, so close the material editor and zoom out on the perspective. Now I want to remove the grid from here. It doesn't make a difference one way or the other, but by removing the grid when modelling on a non-uniformic scale like this, you really don't need it. So let's remove it by pressing G on the keyboard. Okay, now we want to create 3 length segments and width segments. This is the modifier panel, and within this you can make alterations. You could have done what I've just did at the start, but I chose not to because this helps you introduce you to the modifier panel. Okay, now we want to select a modifier from the list, and the modifier we want is called Edit Poly. Select it and it'll apply. Now click the plus to open up the sub-objects menu, and we want to select vertices. Now we want to use scale. You can find that here, or you can right click, but right click doesn't seem to agree with this software I'm using to record, so I'll use these. And then you want to select these vertices, scale it out. Okay. Now we will go to the bottom here, and we will click on the polygons with polygon selected. We will select all 4 of the polygons. You have to hold Control to do this, and then we will extrude. You can extrude just by using this little button here, but we'll be using this other one simply because it's more precise. This is in the Edit Polygon section of the sub-object polygon in the modifier panel. Okay, and we want to extrude. See, the trick is to extrude based on the size proportion you've already got. There's no real set size on what you should or shouldn't extrude to. It's all basically going off your own thing. If you've drawn something or you're working off some kind of scale or grid reference example, if you're modeling a character or a car, you want to try and keep it within the lines, if you know what I mean. But anyway, that seems a little bit too big, so I'll reduce it to Let's try 60. It's a bit too small. Let's try 70. That looks about right. I'm just going to increase the height of my table. I'm not too happy with that. At least compared to the size of the legs anyway. And I want to do this by using the move tool here. There you go. That makes me happier. Now, here we go. Here's a small table so far. Nothing fancy. And we'll just add a slight bit more detail to define what it really is by selecting all of these polygons on the outside. You can do this manually, like so. You can, or you could do it like this. Basically, with ignore back facing disabled, this basically makes it so you can only select what you can see in the window, drag, and that's all those polygons selected. Okay, but you need to select one side and then the other. You can't select all of this or the extrude will not work. You can select the two opposite sides only, and then you want to extrude by, let's try 10. Sorry, keyboard problems. 10. Okay. And for some reason we're in vertice mode. I didn't tell it to do that, but and again with the opposite side. Okay, and deselect. This is turn edge faces off, and there you go. A basic table made using purely extrude with the edit poly modifier. So we originally started out as this, and it eventually became this. Even with made, you can make as many changes as you like, but for now, just let this out. And now we will be going to, in the rendering panel, environment, and then setting the background color to white. Close. Now rendering and render. There you go. There's a render of your box. However, let's do it like this. In the older versions, there is no render. There is no render setup. Render setup is render. So I'll display this. And in this size, you can also change the size. Example: let's render almost full screen, and render. And here you go. Here's your table. And thank you. That is the first tutorial, your basic introduction to using Freeze Max, making a table. Thank you, and goodbye.